Laura here at Food Prude. So this video is going to be a really tough one for me because it's something I've been putting off for a couple weeks because there's a lot of lessons that are being learned this year, and it's been a real struggle, and this is all in regards to the garden. This happens to be probably my worst garden that I've had in about 15 years, and it's a real struggle to deal with that and to acknowledge that and to adapt and to learn from it. And at times I was like not gonna share, and then I posted that I was really struggling. And I have a friend who's also a student who comes to the homestead where I teach gardening classes every year, because gardening is my thing, it's what I do. And so she said it was kind of nice to hear that her mentor, meaning me, was struggling as well. So I thought, okay, this is a great opportunity for me to go ahead and just admit some issues that are going on in the garden, talk about the crazy weather patterns that's changing every year, and just things that I'm going to fix and adapt to for next year. So come along in the garden and we'll talk about all the things, what's going wrong, what's going good, and then how I'm going to go ahead and change it for next year. All right, before we head out to the garden, I wanted to talk about the different weather pattern that's going on that's different up here in northern Michigan. I don't know what you're experiencing or what's going on, if you feel like there's the weather's it's different and stuff like that. And that's something that can be super frustrating to deal with, because guess what? You can't control it. So once you kind of accept that that's not something that you can control or change, no matter why it's changing, or the reasoning behind all of that change, the easier it is to adapt and then look forward or ahead of maybe some issues that are coming up because of the different weather. But I thought I'd describe kind of what's been going on. So this is our 6th year of in the garden here in northern Michigan. I used to garden about 3-4 hours south of where we are right now, so it was actually a little bit different. Everything was a little sooner. You had much longer period of time. We have just a smidge over 100 days without frost, so it's a really hardcore time period where you just have to get so much done. And for us here, especially for me, I'm the one that does the gardens. I'm the provider for the veggies and stuff like that for us, and if there's extra, it goes to the animals. So it's really, really important to me because I know what's getting put into our food, or what's not getting put into our food, or what's getting sprayed or not sprayed. And that stuff is extremely important to me. So I want to make sure I do everything organically. Let nature do a lot of the work. Let the vitamin D just come down and just, let those leaves be those little solar panels and suck up all that energy and then that good nutrients from the soil and stuff like that. So all of that to say is it's just very important. It's my thing. It's super my thing. And so this year when things are struggling, it kind of it hurts. It really does hurt, and I don't like it. And it's been kind of rough to deal with it. And there's been times where I have cried, and there's definitely been lots and lots of swear words, because that's just that's what happens. So has the thought of just giving this up ever crossed my mind? Yeah, it flutters through there sometimes when you're in the heat of the moment, when you're like, this is the worst garden ever, nothing's going to work out, we're all going to starve. And then, right, you got to have that little tempered tantrum, and then you got to step back, take a break, and then reevaluate the situation and see how you can go ahead and tackle the actual things that are going on, instead of just freaking out, right? That does no good to give up, and that's not an option for me to give up when I know I need to provide for for the family in that capacity. The husband has a job. He works all the time. I've got the kids. He does a lot of the animals, and then I do the kids and the veggies and stuff like that. So all that stuff is really important to us, that we do it the correct way, the way that we feel is the best to nourish our bodies, and especially our kids' bodies, right? Super important. They're going to have this great, strong body from the get-go because of what we've been able to provide for them, which feels really good. So anyway, love my gardens. Gardens my thing. And I know if you're thinking, geez, Laura, just go buy it from the farmer's market or go to the store. Well, I don't always know what people are doing at their place, and if they say that it's organic, I will sometimes ask, well, what does that mean? Well, I only sprayed it one time, or we only do it if we have to, and then they sprayed some kind of nasty pesticide, or they used a GMO seed or something. I'm like, well, that's not what I want. So that's why we do raise most of this stuff on our own, is because that's what's important to us. So let's get back to the weather. That was a little, I like to chase a little squirrel thing once in a while, a little rabbit trail, right? So the weather. So last year that we had a lot of hazy smoke days because of the Canadian wildfires, and that really put a damper on the garden itself. Luckily the frost date ended up like weeks after what it typically does. So, but that gave those several weeks of some good weather, and those tomatoes and all that other stuff to kind of actually get growing, finish growing, and then turn red and all that stuff. And we were able to harvest it. So it was okay. It was not a gangbuster year. The year before was like, yeah, baby, like it was gangbusters. Last year sucketh. This year is probably definitely worse. It's just worse. But so this year, the weather that we're dealing with is, I want to say, for a couple weeks there, it felt like Florida. It was very humid. It rained almost every single day, and when it rained, it would just completely downpour. I mean, just downpour. So then we were dealing with washouts everywhere. The nutrients or fertilizer that you have in the garden is just getting washed out because, it can't do it. And then with all that rain, it's causing a lot of issues with blight coming up from the soil, getting splashed onto all the tomatoes and the potatoes. We're going to go out there and you can see the destruction of what has happened this year. And so that was, and the humidity, so nothing was able to dry out. And that is, for me, for the 6 years that I've been here, is not typical of that kind of weather. I think people, like even just a couple miles away or the next town over, are getting a little bit different weather than I am. So I can't even imagine all over the country what's going on or what you're experiencing are different. But I'm just giving it to you from the homestead this year. So, and then the last couple of nights have been really cold, 48, 50. So that ends up being some blossom drop and stuff like that. And we're in the middle of August right now. Our first frost date typically happens the beginning of September. I can cover some things up, but some things are just too big. I can turn on the sprinkler when the frost happens as well, just to help just hold on to anything, because then it usually kind of warms back up after the frost. But it's that frost, and you hopefully you don't get that killing frost. So here I am, the middle of August, and things need to come in the next couple of weeks, or like now what, right? And I need to fill up my coffers, right? My pantry needs to be restocked because last year was good, and I took inventory of stuff, and so now I've got to look at, okay, I'm only going to get this amount of tomatoes. What do I do with that? I don't get to have an abundance this year. And I know that's very pessimistic of me, and it is a very pessimistic gardening type of year this year, and I try not to count my eggs before they're hatched, but I also have a very strong belief in God and Jesus, and that, I know that He provides, and I know that He's also teaching some lessons. So I need to open up my heart and go learn these lessons and learn from the situation that's going on, better prepare the homestead for different types of weather patterns, even if they don't typically happen. Next year, who knows what will happen? So I'm going to try to balance out, like, okay, what did I learn this year? What can I change? And then, tackle that unknown weather and that thing that I can't control. So all this to say is that, shit happens, and we're just going to deal with it and be thankful for the stuff that the garden does provide for us this year, and then just try to do better next year as well. So we're going to head out to the garden, and I'll show you exactly what's growing. Okay, over here on this side of the garden is the crappy side. And this is one of those lessons that I'm going to talk about here in a minute here, but I wanted to show these tomatoes. They are sad as heck. They all have blight. They were stunted from the beginning, and I'm getting a few tomatoes, and I have done a lot of work to try to help these guys, but this is a sad, sad side over here. Here's a shot of the garden. That's on the bad side here. I'm about to talk about, where things are looking sad. garden, and I tried to find a spot where it wasn't too windy, which is in front of my little hoop house here, I guess. I hope not. Anyways, I'm trying, people. This stuff is, it's a rough year. I think you already got that in the beginning part of my video. You're still here with me, so thank you. So, lessons learned. So we have two parts of the garden. The last couple years, we've extended it to this half, and then we have that half. That half this year has performed pretty bad. It's the tomatoes, potatoes were stunted, and they have blight. The onions did okay, and some of my beans, because beans are awesome, right, are doing good over there. I have some dry beans going on over there. But so what I think what happened over there, we thought we were fertilizing it enough with the chicken poop, and we top dressed all the plants with compost manure from the chickens that have overwintered and stuff like that. And so we thought it was going to be fine and do enough, but it's not. So lesson number one, we need to bulk this garden up big time because it failed over there. And with all that rain we've been getting and bouncing that blight up onto the potatoes and tomatoes, they didn't have a fighting chance because they weren't strong enough themselves. So it hurt. It always seems to hit, but it hit early, and you can tell by that video clip that, I mean, they're struggling. There's barely anything there. I've did copper twice, and I'm just going to, I'm just done with giving that I'm not going to trim anything. So there's barely anything left on some of them, and just whatever is there. Hopefully the tomato itself doesn't turn black and rotten, and then I can't use it, right? So that is one big lesson, is that we thought we were doing enough, and for whatever reason, we're not. So we need to do more. So we could get a soil test, but I think what this year we're going to do, and I've talked about in a previous video, we're going to go ahead and have the pigs come in here this year, and they'll be able to clear a lot of this stuff up, all the grass that's getting out of control, and whatever leftover stuff that didn't grow, or vines or anything like that. And then also we'll be dropping their poop, right? So which will be great fertilizer. So I'm hoping that will work as well. Some of this will be blocked off because I have strawberries and asparagus in the hoop house here that I don't think that they need to sleep in, although they probably would really enjoy it, right? But so definitely that's the biggest lesson, is to go ahead and we got to bulk up our fertilizer, because with that, the weather particularly, it just couldn't keep up. It just, the disease and junk won, right? If it wasn't washing away whatever we put in here, it just didn't work out. So that was definitely one lesson. Over here is doing good, because I think this is its third year over here. So we know that we got to make sure we don't deplete too many more nutrients from this side of the garden as well, so that we can make sure that things still do good. So I was thankful that how I planted the garden was the same crops over there, and then the same crops over here as well. So it's a great comparison to not always just put all your tomatoes together, or all your potatoes together, depending on your size, of course, and how much you're actually growing. But it's good to break it up a little bit on some of those items that don't need to be wind pollinated, like the corn and stuff like that. That way you can give it a good comparison. Okay, what's going on in the garden? What's being depleted? Was there a bug, a pest, or something like that got there that didn't get over here? Or what did you do a companion planting situation? So it's a really great way to be able to compare what's going on in your own garden. So to make that a note for next year as well. Maybe you could do that. Definitely I will be doing that. So for some of the other stuff, I'm not sure why they are struggling. I think it may be just due to the weather and that kind of luck, or who knows. But like the peppers, the pepper plants are finally starting to look okay now. But like I mentioned before, it's gotta get her done kind of time around here, right? I don't have 6 months, 9 months to grow stuff. I only have 3 months to grow stuff. And I've only got a couple weeks left before the frost hits. So the peppers, yeah, the peppers get like one pepper on them, and then there's not too many blooms, and then we've had a lot of cool nights, so that's some blossom drop issues, especially on the tomatoes. And then some little jerk is coming in here like a bird or something, I have no idea, and pecking whatever red ones are actually turning. Don't have that many tomatoes, and whatever's turning red, which has been very minimal, is getting pecked by some jerk. So that's cool. Appreciate that. So today I trimmed up the good side of the tomatoes. I'm going to spray copper later on, and then I'm going to, I have some frost cloth, that's just like a fabric, that I'm going to go ahead and put around the tomato plants. It's just been a huge long strip, so I'll just put that around them. That'll help keep them a little warmer for the cooler nights, and then hopefully keep that little stinker off of my lovely, very small red tomatoes that I have. So that's fun, right? It just doesn't keep coming to you, right? One of those years. And then we've had some interesting pests. Typically, for every year that I can remember, we have a lot of potato bugs, and we squish them for as long as we can, and then we usually have to do one application of Monterey with spinosad, and that takes care of it the rest of the season. This year there's been very minimal potato bugs. There's been no spraying. I don't know if they gave up because the crop looked as bad as it does, and they're like, forget this, we're out of here. We're not even going to try to decimate whatever you have left, lady. So that hasn't been too bad. Then I had these like little gnat aphid things that just like hatched. I don't even know where they came from. Landed on all my corn, some of my oats, and landed on a little couple other sparse spaces like that. I put DE with neem oil on it the first night. Then of course it rained, so then the next day I sprayed it with neem, or I think the husband sprayed it with neem. Thank you. And it worked. That helped. So I don't know what they were exactly. I hope I got them. I hope they don't come back with like, you know, like some other critter with a vengeance. I don't know. So that was fun. So yeah, some different bugs this year that I've never seen, some different weather patterns that I've never seen. So good stuff out here in the garden. So I'll put down in my recap when in my notes in the blog post, just kind of like the lessons that I've learned and what I'm going to be changing for next year when I'm not so hot and I can think a little better. And I need to go make pizza for the kids. I've got the dough rising right now. But let me think. Okay, so we're going to put the pigs in here. So we definitely got to fertilize it. I'm not going to do a soil test because sometimes they're just confusing, or they want to put so many pounds of whatever per square foot, and maybe I don't want that particular type of thing, or I don't trust the source of where that nitrogen or whatever's coming from. I'm not sure. Plus, this is a really big garden. It's really big, so I'm hoping the poop will do it. We'll save all the chicken compost as well, and then everything will get a top dressing around each plant as well, and I'm hoping that'll work. The weeds this year, y'all, the weeds, I'm not sure what's going on. I'm like, did I fail at something? But the weeds, the grasses have overtaken most of the garden. I'm basically having paths of grass down each one, and I'm kind of liking it. One, because we had so much rain, so it kept the nutrients up. And two, I think I'm actually going to adapt this method for next year. So if you have any experience, like if you've done this before, please let me know what your pros and cons were. I'm going to leave the patches of grass in between each of the rows and make it wide enough that a push mower can get through. So I'll leave the grass and just come push mow the rows in between. And I think that'll work really good. And then the grass will just get spread, and that's organic material to the other plants and stuff like that. So, and then will help with the washout. It'll be more kind of like self-sustaining and like permaculture type of thing. So I'm going to give that a try instead of having to hoe all the rows, or rototill. I don't like the rototill. I don't think it does that good of a job. So I usually do hoe and manual labor. And then I was getting hard on myself, speaking of weeding and stuff, like, because I was trying this year, I'm like, okay, I'm going to take a step back and not spend like every minute out in the garden. I want to do some fun stuff with the kids, go on some hikes, just kind of like maybe just chill out a little bit with them. Not a lot. I'm not really of a chilly type of person. I don't really chill out. But this year I just kind of, I'm like, man, the kids are growing up. I want to make sure that they're a priority, and then take a, not put this in the back seat, but just a smidge, like a little. But I'm like, did I do that wrong? Was I just being careless, or thinking, oh, well, it always works out for me every year, it's going to work out again? I don't know. So that's another lesson I had to learn too. Yeah, so good stuff in the garden. I hope this helps you. Check out the blog post, because I'm going to write a lot more in detail, again, when I'm not so hot and in the sunshine right now. But I hope your gardens are growing much better than mine. I hope you can write down some lessons learned in your journal that you're learning on your own garden, or maybe that you can take from other videos that you are watching, like mine, or some other sources, and apply them to yours. And I just hope everyone keeps growing and growing, and I'll see you guys next time.